Hello once again and welcome back to the show. Once again, we've got Nick Tenconi, the leader of the United Kingdom Independence Party, back for you. This man is a very, very popular guest indeed. He's making great inroads with his party. And we're going to ask him some of the more pertinent questions that are going on right now in the political world. First of all, Nick, how are you, sir?
I'm great, thank you, Marcus. As always, thanks for having me on. I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming. You're a very busy man. We want to know what the after effects have been for your party, which you lead, UKIP, in light of the Rupert Lowe, Mohammed Yusuf, Nigel Farage reform fallout.
Sure. Well, the effects for UKIP have been very, very difficult to describe. See, our numbers across the board are going up in all areas. It's very difficult to know, even though we fact find as much as we can. It's very difficult to know the whys and the wheres. We have indications, certainly. Now, the team, my efforts, the team, doing absolutely fantastic work. We really are working around the clock. It's absolutely all in on taking our country back. Um, there's so much that goes into the rise in the numbers we're seeing. The latest, the 100th nail in the coffin, and that refers to the Lowe scandal or the Lowe situation, and it is the 100th nail in the coffin. We have to ask ourselves, Reform's membership and its support is based on a personality cult of Nigel Farage. Well, that's not going to go anywhere. There are still people who are fighting to the death for the Tories who consider themselves to be socially conservative or right wing. That's not going anywhere. I'm on record as calling all this out. So when the spats and the 100th or 101 second, third nail go in the coffin, does it benefit UKIP? It's very difficult to say, but I tell you what happens, and this is the really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
You see, with the rise of independent journalism, good people like yourself and other people, you see, and the freeing of Twitter or X by Elon, you've now got these really big accounts across between YouTube and X, across socials. You've got these really big accounts who basically don't want anything to do with politics, but they like to commentate. They like to play a part. Now, eventually, I'm going to be pitching them saying, if you're not taking your country back, why not? But for now, these really big accounts are saying, hey, Nick, let's platform you based on the shenanigans with reform. And of course, I'm there going, that sounds like a really great idea. And then, boom, we see our membership and our candidate list go through the roof. So I don't know what the mechanics are with reform and its 220,000 members up and down the country in terms of how it helps us. All I can say is that every time someone who's either an activist, say media commentators, platformers, podcasters, but it's all sort of activism, I tip my hat to, and the incredible work that the rise of independent media does. Every time you platform the good guys, every time you platform the guys with the policies that we've got, every time you do that, there's an enormous push within. Our numbers are through the roof. I'm absolutely ecstatic. And the last thing I'll say is, in terms of impact with regards to reform debacles, actually, if I'm being honest with you, it breaks my heart because reform are breaking the public's heart. That's what they're doing. It's about taking our country back. Let's go back. As I always say, I'm on record. 50,000 people in Trafalgar Square in June or July of last year. Nigel's parachuted himself into Clacton. They had a candidate in Clacton. Who was the guy or girl? How many hours did they put in? How many hard yards did they put in? Nigel parachutes himself in. Gone. I'm taking over this. This is mine. That was one of the first nails in the coffin. There's been a whole a list of other examples where he's behaved like that. So, in all honesty, it's actually heartbreaking what I see reform doing to that percentage or that sect in reform. You can call them working class, concerned citizen, middle class, concerned citizen. You can call them what you want, patriotic, Christian, conservative, whatever you want to call it. I'm heartbroken for them because a lot of those people have put their heart and soul into the party. And we were there saying, please don't do that. Please wait and stop. And of course, they've got their hearts broken. And typically when you get your heart broken, you and I know this as Christians, the idea is to not harden your heart. But unfortunately, in secular society, that's typically what tends to happen is they harden their heart. So every time reform does this, I'm not actually rubbing my hands together. I'm going, actually, this is really sad and it's really horrible because we want to win and return justice to the British public.
Absolutely, and amen to all of that. And a lot of people will be saddened by this, genuinely saddened. I'm a former UKIP man, I'm a former Brexit Party man, but I'm not in Reform. I'm doing the political commentary out with, even though I'm a supporter of you, your party, and I'm a supporter of people in Reform. We can hold those values, but I'm not in support of a lot of the policies that Rupert Lowe had spoken about, the ideological differences, and one that you and I, we don't want to flog this subject to death, but it comes up every time, is mass deportations, repatriation, and this is the Donald Trump policy that's coming out to great effect. There is no sight on the horizon of Nigel doing any kind of U-turn on mass deportations, and you're talking about 5 to 10 million and taking people back. So obviously you're talking about illegal and illegitimately placed legal people who have got it under false pretenses. Could you just go a little bit more into that, please, into your mass deportations? Just briefly.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, certainly. So if you'll permit me, Marcus, it does take me about 5 minutes to say this. So I'll try and condense it down. But no, you're right to ask the question. So basically, how are we going to do it and to whom? So the best thing is to work backwards. So the subject of remigration is technically nothing new. It's immigration in reverse. Mm-hmm. But in terms of common parley in the Overton window, yes, in the last 10 years, 15 years, it's gone from being fringe to more mainstream. Well, this was always going to happen with the rise of radical Islam, the Islamic Caliphate in Britain, liberalism, people rejecting the nasty side to secular life, and of course, the rise and legitimization of communism in our institutions, to name but a few. So remigration is to do with people who are British citizens, i.e. they were born here. So what is it to be a British citizen? It means you're born here, whether you like it or not, as much as certain fringe people would say that doesn't make you a British citizen. It does, actually. You might not have the cultural values. So we look at unintegration and a refusal to assimilate within those who are born here, which if you do the math from when 1997, when Tony Blair opened the floodgates, you're basically up to third generation if you do the math. So it's basically saying if you are a terrorist sympathizer, if you are a communist, if you are here to subvert British culture and Christianity, if you do not deserve to be here, if you can't speak English, if you are a net receiver rather than a net contributor, things have gotten so out of hand now that we have to face facts that we got it incredibly wrong. And there's actually lots of people who are here who salute the flag of Bangladesh, of Pakistan, for example. Now, I know that these people exist. They are here, but they live as if they were in Bangladesh, or they live as though they were in Pakistan, or they here as if they were living in India. Now, there's no one particular issue I've got with those three countries as countries, but they're three very good examples in the wake of October 7th, 2023, where we can clearly see that their loyalty is in no way to Britain. So that's the subject of remigration. Then there becomes well, how do you do it? It's called citizenship deprivation. So you have a special task force, which is obviously lined up to the Home Office once you've dealt with the issue of deep state, which I'm sure we're going to go on to talk about, and you actually have a fully functioning and fair judiciary, and you've left various and repealed laws, and you've left various nonsense conventions, etc. And you essentially say, we're repatriating you home. Now, there's lots of questions that arise from that to deal with the subject of remigration, like how do you do it? Well, you do it via police and military. It's basically saying you're going home. It's no different from being deported. You and your family are going back to where you support. Now, coming away from remigration to a much easier conversation around mass deportations, that is to do with those who are here illegally. And then there's two other caveats. You've got your foreign nationals in our jails. So people who are here on visas, so they came legally, but they're in our jails. So you've got 11,000, give or take. Well, they're detained already, so they would be removed. Then you've got your people here on visas who are claiming benefit. So it's something like 1.6 million are here on visas claiming benefits, which amounts to 21 billion. Then there's a stat that came out the other day which said 1.2 million are claiming but it wasn't clear whether it was legal or illegal. So I'm breaking it down
Mm.
and like to think of myself as leading the charge in this area so viewers can understand it. I've worked back from remigration. So foreign nationals and people claiming welfare or on visas, technically speaking, they're here legally. We just don't want them here. It's just nonsense. And then you got your illegal situation, which was Nigel and Reform's propaganda continually, which was just to talk about the boats, express outrage about the boats, but actually never say what the solution would be because they had no intention of committing to anything ever. So the illegal situation is very simple. You got 100,000 in our hotels. Technically speaking, they're already detained. So you would need the trucks and the lorries and the vans, and you'd have the armed police, and then you remove them, take them to the port or the port or the airport where they are, where you're processed. Obviously, we get everything we need from them, and then they're sent somewhere else. And the last part to that is what about the illegals within the wider society? So that's a suspected 1.2 million outside of the 100,000. Well, it's more problematic, but we know where they are. They're in the nail salons. They're riding the e-bikes. They're facilitating the Deliveroo economy. They're in the car wash money laundering business. They're in the Turkish barber business. They're associated to the Albanians. They're associated to various different mafias and crime outfits. So working back from remigration all the way through your legal stuff and all the way to your low-hanging fruit, your illegal stuff. And how's it done? It's done via a designated task force, armed police, and various other emergency services that would be no doubt required. And these people are detained and they are taken away for processing and then they're sent home.
Yeah, look, it's fascinating. And I think this is the fact that you are pro this. You're echoing what President Donald Trump has said. You're echoing what Rupert Lowe, former Reform MP, has said. There were personality differences, there were structural differences within Reform, but it came down to, I would say, two things. One was the fallout with Mohammed Yusuf, the parachuted in chairman, and the other one was Nigel's complete reluctance to even discuss mass deportations in any tangible or plausible way. He's taken this off, and people have seen a move to the centre ground that's taking on board. I mean, how does anybody from Reform explain to a grassroots member to go out in the pouring rain, take all kind of abuse with a picture of Charlie Mullins on that leaflet? Is a well-known Europhile and a man who said, nothing against the man personally, Nick. I see you smiling there. Nothing against him.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Reform are a joke. This is why I struggled a bit when you asked me your first question about what does it mean to UKIP. I don't understand these people. Their membership list could be fake, but it's Tory Party 2.0, and it's I run out of words. If those people want to be like that and behave like that and waste their time like that after what the Conservative Party did to all of us, then go for it. But it's laughable.
It's almost like a cheating spouse that promises that there'll never be anybody else, and then you catch them. There's a different smell of cologne or Chanel, or there's lipstick on collars, or calls at 3 a.m. I mean, not that I've got experience of any of that, you understand, but it is like they keep going back for more, and these are our people, the Reform candidates. There, even some of them who are going out right now, putting leaflets through doors in Runcorn for a candidate that's got a track record of saying asylum seekers welcome here. This isn't that long ago that the Runcorn candidate
this is exactly the case, Marcus, and it's laughable. Okay. I could go into detail, but I won't. But it is laughable how the British public have the opportunity to get behind the good guys and take their country back, and a section of that are saying no, we're going to defend Nigel to the death. Yeah. If Nigel decapitated someone tomorrow, the Reform attack dogs on social media would still come out defending him. That they just would. You can't reason with that.
They would, and we've seen it over all the channels. Now going on to activism, you're someone who is. I love it. I love it to see you and your band of merry men and women, patriots, out on the streets wherever there's been a crime against this country or a crime against Christianity, for example, or there's an injustice. You'll see Nick Tenconi out there and in a polite but firm way addressing those people or the area of concern. How important is activism to UKIP and to Brits looking to get our country back?
Fundamental, absolutely fundamental. You see, when you become an we were sold a lie, which is, it's too long to unpack when I say that, but you'll hear me say that a lot. We were sold a lie, and that lie was to stay out of politics and religion. We were betrayed. That's the perpetrators of that lie. They have to answer to God on that. Where we come from the early church fathers to now, a man concerns himself with politics and religion. I fell for the lie, potentially only for 5-10 years, but that was long enough. And I'm on record as saying circa 2019, I was making it very clear to all my friendship groups where they knew, because it comes up. But the area and the period I'm talking about is, you're sort of a liberal you're living a liberal secular life. They didn't like what they were hearing. Vitriol was 5-6 years ago from friendship groups right across the board, and not one of them still around. Not one of them. Even though I know what they say when they've had a glass of wine, because they're cowards and they're hypocrites in that regard. At least stand by your ideological values, I say. So being an activist, what I became, which the launch of that was towards the end of 2021, that was my defining moment since 2019, where I saw Wuhan coming, and the nonsense that I was put through in 2020, which I'm kind of on record as talking about, but no one really knows the truth about what my family, my personal life, and the state did to me in that year. Now, of course, if you're going to do that to someone like me, I'm going to come back, I'm going to use that, and I'm going to convert it for good. And that's exactly what happened. So when the subject of activism comes up, I am a walking, talking example of someone who said, I'm ending this, I'm going to deal with this. And the only way that you can, especially if you're on the right in politics, is to act. It's called works. It's called acts. It's called duty. It's the only way. Activism is fundamental to what I do, and it's fundamental to UKIP. And the last bit is, the reason why is because it inspires people. It inspires people when they hear what they want to hear. It inspires people when they see what they want to see. It inspires people when all the synapses go twang in the brain, and that's what we were after, that's what I was trying to say, that's what I want to see, that's what I meant. Now put that context, everything I've just said, in the context of far left totalitarian and Islamist totalitarian and communist totalitarian propaganda. Put that where we are downtrodden, denigrated, emasculated, demoralized, deflated, depressed, anxious, terrified. Now put that context into totalitarian warfare and into deep state rhetoric and deep state sanctioning and all these other things, which just serves to destroy our soul and our spirit. And then someone emerges like Tommy, like Katie, like all of these good people, and they went, I'm calling this out. And again, Turning Point called it out. That was what I first saw going back to 2019. They said it as it was, and there's nothing more inspiring than bravery, as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing more inspiring than courage, because it means by definition you've overcome fear, because you never get rid of the fear. The fear's always there. But if you're courageous and brave, by definition, it's still existed before, it still exists after, but you've overcome it. Nothing more inspiring. Activism's absolutely key. And if we want our country back, Marcus, everyone is going to have to put their head above the parapet. Everyone is going to have to take that step forward, and everyone is going to have to put on the armor of God, bring up the shield of faith, just like I'm having to do now, and say, it doesn't matter what is said, it doesn't matter what happens, I am taking my country back, and I'm going to deliver justice to the British people. Because if the people don't do that, we aren't going to take our country back.
Absolutely. And we think of ESG, DEI, the destructive force of diversity, the toxic poison that goes throughout our schools, the indoctrination that's given to our children. And only just very recently, we've seen the disgraceful behaviour of the head teacher in Eastleigh school, Nick. I mean, where Easter is taken off, a Christian country with a teacher on payroll, on the public purse, that's prepared to say that there's no room for Christianity. Well, we would say to people, if there's no room for Christianity in your life, Why are you even in a Christian country that's laws, traditions, and customs are built on this? If it's not for you, then perhaps the best thing for everybody is that you go somewhere else where you do not face the threat to young children that you're going to show them any contempt or negativity whatsoever because they're Christians. What do you think of that whole debacle?
Yeah, I quake with rage. We're going to take our country back. So Stephanie Mander, head teacher at Norwood
That's right.
Primary
Primary.
School
Yeah.
in Eastleigh, on the 4th, I haven't got my calendar with me open, rather, on the 4th, Thursday, the 4th of April. Can't help but feel that that's next week. The disciples of Christ are going to be protesting outside the school, and we're coming with purpose, and that purpose is to call out a number of things. So for your viewers, one, how much money did she accept to be able to pass the various tick boxes with regard to diversity? How much money did she know she was going to receive? How much money did she know the school was going to get as a result of ticking that box of diversity? The predicate for which was to cancel Easter. Item number two, what on earth do you think you're doing in a Christian land, cancelling what essentially would be, again, I've got my own views on this, but secular Easter egg hunts, the secular, there is some, when we talk about Britain's a culturally Christian land, we're talking about the secular element to it. Sure. Then you've got obviously your doctrinal, theological element to it as well. So let's look at both of them. So no doubt that there would have been biblical aspects. There's you do a little play, we've all been there, etc. The newsletters that go out to the parents, the invitation, and the surrounding of the environment, shall we say, which is focused at being holy and the importance of the life, death, the passion, and the resurrection of our Lord. I'm skipping loads of chapters here.
Sure.
We're going to be putting it to her. What do you think you're doing, taking that away from children? And you're doing it to denigrate Christianity. You're doing it to say Christianity is, by definition, it's bad. You're doing it under the guise of diversity, and we all know what that means. It's to say to any Muslim children and their parents and Muslim communities, which we actually don't know who's driving this. We actually don't know the scope yet. What you're doing is you're saying Christianity bad, Islam good. So what we're going to do is we're going to cancel Easter. Again, we're bending the knee to Islamic State and to Islam. So those are the facts. She's ticking a diversity box, which will get her some funding. All of this is going to get called out. We've got the banners and we've got the placards. We're taking it as you quite rightly said, Marcus, where there's an injustice, I'm going to be there against the British people or against our faith. I'm going to be there. And there's going to be a lot of people there. We're going to call it out, as we always do. But note that there's a sadness to what I'm saying, because I can't fight every single battle every single time. So like with Drag Queen Story Hour, when myself and our fantastic CEO at Turning Point, when we led the charge against Drag Queen Story Hour, which was happening at a pub in Lewisham, 500 lefties, and it was proven that some of them were armed, met us, and there was about 15 or 20 of us, and we just wanted to have a shout outside the pub and be like, this is really wrong, and we want to exercise our freedom of speech. The road was shut. It's a major thoroughfare, hundreds of police, tens and tens of vans, loads of cost to the taxpayer expense. Did I want to do it? No. Were we all frightened? Of course we were. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Go and call it out. Where were the fathers with regards to opposing Drag Story Hour when it's happening in schools? I expect to see the Christian fathers there on next Thursday, standing shoulder to shoulder with us, saying, Christian country, Easter comes first. You can cancel everything else, but Easter stays.
Absolutely. And you wonder, where is the turning point for many of these parents? Where is the turning point for the grandparents? You can't just turn the other cheek all the time and look the other way, because if good men and women do nothing, as the old saying goes, tyranny is guaranteed. Quick example, I was in B&Q the other day, just out for a couple of tools, some paint, a bit of plaster, and I'm confronted with an LGBT flag that tells me that I've got to stop what I'm doing, explain to the youngsters around me about buggery and about other acts that just are not accepted or relevant or appropriate in a place like that. And the next thing I've got on the tannoid is, we would like to wish all our Muslim customers a happy Eid. I said, well, if any of your Muslim customers are looking up at that flag, they'll be like me, heading out the door without buying so much as a single nail. Now, peacefully and without saying a word, I hit these people where it hurts twice. I'm doing it now, talking to the leader of the United Kingdom Independence Party. I put it on my account for what it's worth to share that messaging, and I did not buy and I will not buy another thing from B&Q. Is it that kind of thing as well, that the purchasing power that we have, that we need to use to hammer this home?
Yeah, so it gets worse. So my nearest B&Q to where I am, I'm in there about a month ago, and I'm in there, big warehouse,
Yeah.
walking through, can't find anything, and it goes over the tannoy. I did a face to camera about this, but it might not have gone up. It goes over the tannoy, wishing you all a very happy Ramadan. I wasn't in a very good mood at the time, but I don't need to be in a good or a bad mood for me to act. I know my duty. This goes back to the point about me and my activism. So I asked they've got some young workers in there, and I thought I'd ask two of them. One of the guys happened to be white. One of them happened to be Indian. Makes no difference, but it was really great to get the sort of cross section.
Yeah.
Both of them said it's really wrong. We're not comfortable with it. We don't like it. I asked the last chap I spoke to. I said, "Can I see the manager?"
Yeah.
Manager comes up, and she was as combative and as out of touch as can be. She was there to make me feel as small as possible. She was there to make sure that I felt as little as possible by the process of trying to put someone on the back foot. But she didn't realize she was talking to me. So I made it very clear. I wanted to understand if there was an Easter message and why there was a Ramadan message. And I quote, the Ramadan message is new. They're doing it this year, just like what Pure Gym are doing. So it's all new, but Muslims have been here since the 60s or the 70s or whatever. So we see, again, there's a huge step change in a very small amount of time. And she said, we also put Easter messages out. I'd been in that store several times because of a bit of business I was transacting. And that day I was in there, by definition, you're in there for 15, 20 minutes because of shenanigans. I never heard an Easter message. She's lying. And she was deliberately combative to say, we're actually, all the little book comes out, we're inclusive, like she's reading from it. We're inclusive, we're diverse, we celebrate diversity. And I was stood there thinking, this is not what I'm after. I want to know why this is happening. I don't want you to read from a script. So it gets worse. Your story, my story, we've got the same story like loads of other people. It is beyond painful, the truth behind what's really happening. Someone has control over that, and they're reading off of a script.
So these combatants that crawl out of the woodwork, that come that tooled up to the meetings that you and your great team. Now, we hear the name George Soros. We've got about 5 minutes left, which might be difficult to talk about that character. George Soros, the Hungarian banker, the man who made his money, him and his uncle, during the Holocaust and the shutdown and the close down of society, where Jewish properties came back into his domain. We won't go into the whole story, but these NGOs that are all over the world that fund Antifa, Black Lives Matter, groups like this that are obviously extremely radical left, violent radical leftists that appear everywhere. You see them in the Socialist Worker. Not that I read the Socialist Worker, but for journalistic endeavours, I have read it, and they talk about the muster group. They're bussing people in. In America, they're paying people. They may be doing the same here. Have we got the same funded poison in the UK that they have in the States right now, where all these groups are targeting Elon Musk, for example, and Tesla? Have we got the same problem here with these mobs?
Yeah, absolutely we do. So go back to your, I'm aware of time, so I'll be as quick as I can, speed up slightly. No, not at all. You're absolutely right about the bussing in. So the Socialist Worker Party in Britain, they are incredibly well funded. So they may well be a government agency, or they might just be independent of that. But they bus people in. They're very well funded. They produce hundreds, thousands even of placards. They got workers doing all this stuff. You've seen the marches. So the Socialist Worker Party is incredibly well funded. But we have moles that tell us that their membership is 2,000-3,000 sometimes. We don't know what to believe. It's not enough money. So we have no choice but to think that it's state funded in some way, or there is potentially the issue of donors to such causes, which brings me on to talk about Soros and what he did with state media in Poland. You see, before the election, Poland's actually in a bit of a bad way. People often say Poland's doing really well. Under the new government, as you well know, it's awful. And the suggestion is that so I'll put it to your viewers that Soros, it was a coup to take over the media before the Polish elections. And to your last point about paid agitators, hey, look, whether it's Qatar or Saudi, what's the plan? Are we honestly going to believe that there isn't a Middle Eastern, Russian, Chinese, Indian, I don't know who, that there isn't a foreign entity that is deliberetely trying to denigrate Christianity? It uses TikTok, it uses social media, it cancels certain people, it makes sure that other messages are heard well and truly and loudly at that. There is a deep state effort to subvert British culture, British Christianity, Britain's faith, and also our whiteness. These people are fundamentally racist as well, which is known as Great Replacement theory. Now, I'm acutely aware of time, so I'll just end on this with regards to the issue of the deep state. We can call it out, and shows like this are essential because going back to activism, we've got to call it out. But there must be a solution at the end of it, Marcus. There has to be a solution. In the first past the post system, the only way out of the mess, no matter how grave, the only way to take your country back is to become a political activist, back and join and support and put your heart and soul into a political party whose policies, missions, and manifesto resonate with you, that their ideology, more important than policies, is unbreakable. It's unwavering. That's where we stand out from the other parties. That's where we stand out from Nigel and Reform. Believe in the policies, believe in the missions, maybe even had a little look at the manifesto. And you've also gone, I've actually got my head around this to yourself. You've said, this ideology is unbreakable. This is what these people stand for and with. I'm getting behind that. If we had tens of thousands of people doing that and becoming political activists, I promise you, we will take our country back from the deep state, from the globalists, from the Islamists, from the communists, from the Marxists, and also from the liberals who worship the drag queen story hour, TQIA plus, and all these other just weird proclivities and all that sort of stuff. It can be done, but that's what needs to happen in order for it to be done.
Absolutely, to all of that, and I think people will look at UKIP, and the more you get on, we don't see you on these channels that people are actually binning. We don't see you on mainstream TV. I think it's a disgrace that you're not on GB News, Talk TV. Not that we'd like to see you on GB News, you understand. I really quite think you're a nice bloke. I'd take you to suffer surrounded by some of those people. But you will always be welcome on Herd Immunity News. You're one of the most popular political figures as far as our viewers and listeners are concerned. And we wish you nothing but the best. We will cover UKIP and the fortunes. I am a former UKIP man. There'll always be a special place in my heart for UKIP because they're the original Brexit party for me. But listen, Nick Tenconi, leader of the United Kingdom Independence Party, thank you very much for coming back onto our show, sir. Thank you.
God bless, Marcus. Thank you, mate.